Section 19 of Pirates of Panama, The Buccaneers of America by A.O. Exquemelin, translated by G.A. Williams. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Chapter 12, Part 4. Captain Morgan, having now been long absent from Maracaibo, and knowing the Spaniards had had sufficient time to fortify themselves and hinder his departure out of the lake, granted their proposition, and made as much haste as he could for his departure. He gave liberty to all the prisoners, first putting every one to a ransom, yet he detained the slaves. They delivered him 4 persons agreed on for hostages of what money more he was to receive, and they desired to have the slave mentioned above, intending to punish him according to his deserts, but Captain Morgan would not deliver him, lest they should burn him alive. At last they weighed anchor, and set sail in all haste for Maracaibo. Here they arrived in 4 days, and found all things as they had left them. Yet here they received news from a poor, distressed old man, whom alone they found sick in the town, that 3 Spanish men of war were arrived at the entry of the lake, waiting the return of the pirates. Moreover, that the castle at the entry thereof was again put into a good posture of defence, well provided with guns and men, and all sorts of ammunition. This relation could not choose but disturb the mind of Captain Morgan, who now was careful how to get away through the narrow entry of the lake. Hereupon he sent his swiftest boat to view the entry, and see if things were as they had been related. Next day the boat came back, confirming what was said, assuring him they had viewed the ships so nigh that they had been in great danger of their shot. Hereunto they added, that the biggest ship was mounted with 40 guns, the second with 30, and the smallest with 24. These forces being much beyond those of Captain Morgan, caused a general consternation in the pirates, whose biggest vessel had not above 14 small guns. Every one judged Captain Morgan to despond, and to be hopeless, considering the difficulty of passing safe with his little fleet amidst these great ships and the fort, or he must perish. How to escape any other way, by sea or land, they saw no way. Under these necessities, Captain Morgan resumed new courage, and resolving to show himself still undaunted, he boldly sent a Spaniard to the admiral of those 3 ships, demanding of him a considerable ransom for not putting the city of Maracaibo to the flames. This man, who was received by the Spaniards with great admiration of the boldness of those pirates, returned 2 days after, bringing to Captain Morgan a letter from the said admiral, as follows. The letter of Don Alonso del Campo y Espinosa, admiral of the Spanish fleet, to Captain Morgan, commander of the pirates. Having understood by all our friends and neighbours the unexpected news that you have dared to attempt and commit hostilities in the countries, cities, towns, and villages belonging to the dominions of His Catholic Majesty, my sovereign lord and master, I let you understand by these lines that I am come to this place, according to my obligation, near that castle which you took out of the hands of a parcel of cowards, where I have put things into a very good posture of defence, and mounted again the artillery which you had nailed and dismounted. My intent is to dispute with you your passage out of the lake, and follow and pursue you everywhere, to the end you may see the performance of my duties. Notwithstanding, if you be contented to surrender with humility all that you have taken, together with the slaves and all other prisoners, I will let you freely pass, without trouble or molestation, on condition that you retire home presently to your own country. But if you make any resistance or opposition to what I offer you, I assure you I will command boats to come from Caracas, wherein I will put my troops, and coming to Maracaibo, will put you every man to the sword. This is my last and absolute resolution. Be prudent, therefore, and do not abuse my bounty with ingratitude. I have with me very good soldiers, who desire nothing more ardently than to revenge on you, and your people, all the cruelties and base infamous actions you have committed upon the Spanish nation in America. Dated on board the royal ship named the Magdalene, lying at anchor at the entry of the Lake Maracaibo, this 24th of April, 1669. Don Alonso del Campo y Espinosa. As soon as Captain Morgan received this letter, he called all his men together in the marketplace of Maracaibo, and after reading the contents thereof, both in French and English, asked their advice and resolution on the whole matter, and whether they had rather surrender all they had got to obtain their liberty, than fight for it. They answered all, unanimously, they had rather fight to the last drop of blood, than surrender so easily the booty they had got with so much danger of their lives. Among the rest, one said to Captain Morgan, "Take you care for all the rest, and I will undertake to destroy the biggest of those ships with only 12 men. The manner shall be, by making a brûlot, or fire ship, of that vessel we took in the river of Gibraltar, which to the intent she may not be known for a fire ship, we will fill her decks with logs of wood, standing with hats and montera caps, to deceive their sight with the representation of men. The same we will do at all the portholes that serve for guns, which shall be filled with counterfeit cannon. At the stern we will hang out English colours, and persuade them the enemy she is one of our best men of war going to fight them." This proposition was admitted and approved by every one, howbeit their fears were not quite dispersed. For notwithstanding what had been concluded there, they endeavoured to the next day to come to an accommodation with Don Alonso. To this effect, Captain Morgan sent to him 2 persons, with these propositions. First, that he would quit Maracaibo, without doing any damage to the town, or exacting any ransom for the firing thereof. Secondly, that he would set at liberty 1/2 of the slaves, and all the prisoners, without ransom. Thirdly, that he would send home freely the 4 chief inhabitants of Gibraltar, which he had in his custody as hostages for the contributions those people had promised to pay. These propositions were instantly rejected by Don Alonso, as dishonourable, neither would he hear of any other accommodation, but sent back this message, that if they surrendered not themselves voluntarily into his hands, within 2 days, under the conditions which he had offered them by his letter, he would immediately come and force them to do it. No sooner had Captain Morgan received this message from Don Alonso, than he put all things in order to fight, resolving to get out of the lake by main force, without surrendering anything. First, he commanded all the slaves and prisoners to be tied, and guarded very well, and gathered all the pitch, tar, and brimstone they could find in the whole town, for the fire ship above mentioned. Then they made several inventions of powder and brimstone with palm leaves, well anointed with tar. They covered very well their counterfeit cannon, laying under every piece many pounds of powder. Besides, they cut down many outworks of the ship, that the powder might exert its strength the better, by breaking open also new portholes, where, instead of guns, they placed little drums used by the negroes. Finally, the decks were handsomely beset with many pieces of wood, dressed up like men with hats, or monteras, and armed with swords, muskets, and bandoliers. The fire ship being thus fitted, they prepared to go to the entry of the port. All the prisoners were put into one great boat, and in another of the biggest they placed all the women, plate, jewels, and other rich things. Into others they put the bales of goods and merchandise, and other things of bulk. Each of these boats had 12 men aboard, very well armed. The brûlot had orders to go before the rest of the vessels, and presently to fall afoul with the great ship. All things being ready, Captain Morgan exacted an oath of all his comrades, protesting to defend themselves to the last drop of blood, without demanding quarter, promising withal that whosoever behaved himself thus should be very well rewarded. End of chapter 12, part 4.